Hello and good evening, and welcome to another edition of the Gersnet Podcast, the independent Rangers podcast by fans for fans, where all the content is absolutely free, coming to you in association with Forrest Precision Engineering. I'll be your host tonight, Rob Fawcett. In a few minutes, I'll be going through that scintillating victory over Motherwell with my guests. But before I introduce them, I'd encourage you to visit the Gersnet website. Not only do we have our main website with a regular stream of quality articles and online museum, but it also hosts our forums, which are a great place to keep up to date with the latest Rangers news and discussion. We're live tonight on the YouTube channel, and we'd ask that you continue to share the pod on social media, spread the word amongst your friends, but also remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel as well as stop by the forums and join in the discussion there too. Now, I need to give another mention to our partners over at Forrest Precision Engineering. They're a Glasgow-based engineering company who have been a big commercial supporter of Rangers for a number of years, and we're delighted to have them supporting the pod. If you want more information about them, please visit their website at www.forestprecisioneng.com. They've also got a stunning executive lounge in the iBooks main stand, and for more information on that, you can email the club at hospitality@rangers.co.uk. Right, now to my guests. Joining me tonight is Alan Rogers. Alan, how you doing?
Not bad, Rob. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, mate. I'm good. All the happier for a victory at Hampden today.
All the happier for a cup final to look forward to in 5 weeks.
Oh, yeah, I don't remind me of that. And also joining us is one of the OGs of Gersnet, one of the legends, in fact, Alec Anderson. Alec, how you doing, pal? You're on mute, mate.
It's been a while since I've been on, hasn't it? And it shows, you know what I mean? That's if that's the legends of Gersnet, what's the new guy's going to be like? A lot better than the legends. I think being a legend of Gersnet is a bit like being a legend of the Barrel. You know, it's just not something you want to be boasting about. No, I'm not bad, mate. Just after singing Ibroxonia for about a quarter of an hour straight, I hope the voice holds out. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to this cup final, and really looking forward to the pod tonight.
Good. So We'll get straight into things. I guess the first thing we'll do is obviously have a little bit of look at the starting lineup today. For me, I think it was probably the best team we could probably pick today. Casemiro and McCausland dropped out after that midweek defeat. Yefty and Cherny coming back in to take their starting places. What was your initial thoughts on that lineup when it came out, Alec?
Yeah, fine. Basically, that's what I wanted to see. That was the starting lineup I'd been hoping for at Pittodrie, so get to see it next game, a bit late, but there you go. And I know a lot of people out there there's a big kind of we hate Tav movement out there, so probably a few people weren't too happy that the captain was starting the game. They might have wanted Casemiro or Dujon in there instead. But yeah, no, I was quite happy with that, Rob. And I think it's also, you want the guys most of the guys who are taking the flak on Wednesday night, the flak for Wednesday night, to be out there and give themselves a chance to kind of get back in their good books or show that they can come back. I mean, basically, their first team squad is so slight anyway. There's such a kind of paucity of first team players that I would have been a bit worried if there'd be too many changes to that squad we had out there today, that start 11 we had out there today. But I think the big accusation at the team is that they have no spirit, no heart, and all this. For some reason, it's getting gets very personal. I think when it's basically I think it's just tactics, whatever, skill sets, whatever. But that's been levelled at them a lot, that they can't react. So to give most of them that let us down from the start at Pittodrie the other night the chance to kind of rehabilitate themselves slightly was a kind of byproduct, a nice bonus, and I'm glad they eventually did.
Yeah, and I think we'll touch on some of that in a wee bit, but I do agree. I think we are limited with choices at the moment, and it's just trying to make the best of it just now, until we can muddle through. Alan, that's proper being on the bench now for the last couple of games. Balogun and Suter being the preferred partnership. Do you think that that's a sign of a lack of confidence that the manager's got in proper at the moment? And certainly it seems that there's certainly a lack of confidence in him from the fans' perspective. How are you viewing that? Do you think there's going to be a way back for him to get into this team?
It's a tricky one. I mean, he certainly belongs on the bench at the moment, in my view. I've spoken on this pod before about my views on Proper. I don't think he's suited for the league. I think he's a massive downgrade on Connor Goldson. And I think it speaks volumes that Leon Balogun remains, in my view, our best centre half. We released Leon Balogun 3 years ago, and we've brought him back, and he's still our best centre half. I think that speaks volumes as to Rangers' scouting operation in recent seasons. But as far as Proper goes, he just doesn't seem suited, and I think that St Mirren game was really, really difficult for him. And I think the manager saw it as well. It's really rare that you see a centre half getting taken off after an hour, unless it's an injury. And he was taken off pretty much within a minute of that chance, whereby the big centre forward for St Mirren just ragdolled him on the touchline and got away from him. It was obvious the manager saw that and thought, no, you need to come off. So, in terms of the centre half options we have, I always want Balogun in there. I think he's our best option there. And I suspect that means it's going to be a bit of a barren season for Robin Proper. I wouldn't be surprised if he found his way back to Holland maybe next summer. It might just be one of those signings, look, it's just not worked out. It's just not worked out. And they happen. That does happen. But yeah, I think it was the right thing to do, keep him on the bench. And of course it was the right thing to do because, we got the result. We're in the cup final.
I think it is an interesting one because for me, I think the fact that Casemiro comes on ahead of Proper when Balogun's injured, and I think that's my only concern that I've got with Balogun at the moment. He's getting a bit older. He's picking up those odd injuries now, and it leaves us pretty light there. But I think we'll touch on this as we look at the team that finished the game. Casemiro certainly seems to be playing well in there with Suter, the little bits that we've seen of him. So I think going forward that could be a really interesting partnership if the manager decides that he's gonna throw Casemiro in to start some more of these games.
Yeah, I think it's Casemiro's been here for a few weeks now. He's started maybe 4 games or something like that, and thus far he's played left back, right back, and centre half.
Mm-hmm. In the space of 2 games.
Yeah, that just speaks volumes as to where the Rangers squad is right now. That he's been shuffled all over the back line trying to find a place for him. Yeah. But I think he looks decent at centre half, and I certainly wouldn't mind him getting a run there. He's big, he's physical, he's pretty quick across the ground. So the fact, as you say, the fact he came on ahead of Proper, a young loan player coming on ahead of a £2 million signing, it looks like the writing's on the wall.
I don't think I want to write off Proper completely though, because obviously he's an option up front, as we saw the game against Dynamo Kiev. We're going to need all the backup we can get in that department, so I think we can. But I think also Proper, it happened a different way, obviously, with the manager taking him off last Sunday, and it had to happen at the time. Mm-hmm. We could all see that. But it reminded me a bit of Stevie G, just to try and find a kind of positive argument for Proper. It reminded me a bit of Stevie G, Steven Gerrard on the park, the plastic at Livingston, schooling a certain Philip Hollander, after he was having his backside handed to him in another tight win against Livingston in the League Cup. Lyndon Dykes was just knocking him all over the place, and I thought that was quite humiliating for Hollander. And I'm thinking at the time, I probably said to somebody, he'll no recover for that boy. Because he's a monstrous good defender, but Proper at a later time in his career, it's not looking good.
No, it's not me. And I guess the next thing that surprised me, I think, was actually when you look at the bench, Alec. There wasn't any Lovelace there. There wasn't any space for McCausland, but we still see, Kieran Dowell getting space on that bench. Given the injury problems we've had with Danilo and stuff, I thought at least one of them on the bench would have been a good option to give us a wee bit of pace if we needed it. So I was really, really surprised to see those omissions. Do you think that's just a tactical thing for this game, or do you think that's a sign from Clement that they don't really feature for him much, and they're not going to get much game time going forward?
I think it's down to the turn and step over, obviously, that Dowell had against Kilmarnock at Rugby Park, which was the best moment in the match for us that day. So write him off at your peril, Rob. He's going to be the man that wins us the title.
Up there with that pass that Scott Allen did for Hibs against his name.
That's right up there, right up there.
Up there.
I don't know. I'm struggling sometimes to. I don't actually mean this as a criticism, because we'll probably come on to that talking about the manager. I'm struggling to work out, just the first 11 sometimes. Some of the selections there. I don't mean that as a criticism. I don't want to be too hard on him in that respect. But so when it comes to the bench, I feel the thing about young players gets overplayed. It's one of these things when we're having a bad time. It's a thing at Rangers that who's not playing whoever is not playing is always better. And as I'm saying that, I'm just thinking that's not the case with Kieran Dowell. We're quite happy he's not playing. No, Kieran, that's terrible. But like the Yanis Hadji, the furore, the kind of the reception that Yanis Hadji got, I being an old guy, I forgot he's actually a really good-looking young man. And I was at the game against St Johnstone where Hadji comes on and the place is going crazy, and I'm thinking, what? I'm glad that we've sorted it. It's good to have him about and all that. It's good to have him there to augment the team in a time of need. But I couldn't get why there was this big. I watched it back in the telly later on to kind of double check what had happened. There was close-ups of lots of wee lassies with their Hadji things, and I thought, maybe that's what no, but it was grown men. And it's just that thing of you've not been in the team for a while, therefore you are better than what we've got. You need to have been at Rangers, get slagged rotten, then kind of go away for a while. And when you come back, you're a hero, by omission. And I think there's a lot of that going on. Zach Lovelace, I've watched him a few times playing for the B team and what have you, and he's good. He's really good. And he's getting a kind of powerful build on him as well. He's still kind of maybe growing a bit. But I don't, even in the B team, I don't see him being so good that you're thinking that guy stands out. He needs to come in, and he's a trier, and he's a cracking lad and all that. And I hope he does become a kind of a hero for us, and he really makes it at the top level. But I think it gets overplayed because you're not there. You're a young guy. Automatically, you're going to be better. It's all in the abstract, and the reality is, I'm really not bothered about the young players coming in at all. I want guys who've been around the block, been road tested, been stress tested. And that's the problem. We need to get more of them. As the manager says, it's going to take more than one transfer window, and we're going to need 2 or 3 at the current rate. But I wasn't too bothered either way. But as long as Sterling was there, the kind of main, the first options that we eventually went to, I was quite happy, Rob.
Aye, and I guess that brings us into the game. And actually, I mean, I thought we did start the game okay. I mean, I think probably. My view of the first half is probably kind of poisoned a wee bit by the fact that we go in 1-0 down, but we did create a couple of really good chances in that first half. Dessers on about 11 minutes is put through by Yefty. A great little bit of play by him, actually. Kind of doesn't hit the target again. You've then got Yefty that has a really good opportunity, tries to side foot it rather than put the laces through it, and doesn't hit the target again. Alan, I guess this is probably where some of the fans are struggling at the moment. I know I am a wee bit as well, that we seem to start games pretty well. We'll create a couple of decent chances. We don't take them or even hit the target. Apart from getting better quality in the team, how do you think we can improve, the conversion rate on those chances? And it's not just about saying get Dessers at the team because somebody else is going to do it. But there's obviously a bit of a kind of a mind blank when they get into these positions. How can we improve that?
Well, first thing I say is we just need more quality up front. That quality speaks volumes and makes the difference in the crucial moments. And that, is one of the areas where Dessers really lacks. What we have to square it with is, when Danilo was in the team at the beginning of last season, you can't forget he had a couple of really bad misses as well. And that's, it remains to be seen how good a finisher he will be once he's fully fit and firing. But it's one of these things, I'd rather Dessers or any striker was getting into position and missing chances than just being anonymous. Dessers and Pataudry midweek had an atrocious game, absolutely atrocious game. And the stats back that up. No shots on target. He didn't win any duels. He didn't win any headers. Didn't win any fouls. Nothing. It was terrible. So it was at least today was an improvement from him. That he was moving a bit more. He was getting into space a bit more and having a few efforts. But I honestly think it's just all about quality. Putting the ball in the back of the net is the hardest thing to do in the game. And the players that can do that reliably week in, week out cost a fortune and cost more money than Rangers can afford. So we're always going to have that halfway house up front where we need someone that works hard and can score, but we have to accept they're never going to be perfect. But we need to have the best we can possibly afford. It may well be Danilo once he's fit, but Dessers today again, he was just on the fringes of the game a wee bit. Albeit, I must say, the chance he had first half at the back post where it fell to him and he made a hash of the finish. I thought he was taken out. I thought that was a penalty. Not sure why VAR didn't look at it, but nonetheless. But we just need better quality up top. And I know we're going to come to speaking about the January window, but I think that's something that would need to be addressed once we're able to sign players.
Yeah, assuming we've got a CEO, a chairman, a director of football, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah.
And I guess it brings us back to the current nightmare. 24 minutes in, Motherwell with their first real chance. Another cross into the 6-yard box that Halliday gets on the end of. Jeffrey's running away with his back towards the play. People are going to argue that Tav's slow to get back on the initial attack and then slow to stop the cross. People around me in the stadium were being really critical of Butland not even making an attempt to try and get out and collect the cross. I guess is this just bad luck, bad coaching, or laziness, Alec? Or because we always seem to have a habit of conceding cheap goals like this and not taking our chances.
It's I've yet to see us lose a goal. Maybe Andy Tom, about the mid-90s, hit one from outside the box for Celtic into tap bin, which was about the only goal I think we've ever seen us concede that we can't really complain about. There's always a mistake from our point of view, but that was a wee catalogue of errors today, and it was quite incredible to see Hefty trying to run. At the time I'm at the game, and I'm absolutely terrible for remembering stuff clearly when I'm at the game, usually because I'm riddled with nerves, especially these days. I've just got a chance there. By the time I get back home, I just got a chance quickly to watch the 3 goals in the game, and to see Hefty carrying on his run. Like, I'm going, this ball's just going to swoop right round. Like, he doesn't know Andy Halliday exists as present, as an entity, as something that's there. Why would I be looking for a footballer coming into the box when there's a ball coming into the box? Why would I be looking for an opposition player to be arriving in my area to defend? It was quite incredible. And of course, everybody's going to go to Tab as well, including the kind of Jake Humphreys that we've got with his Macho Man podcast type aura. What was that Jake Humphreys podcast called?
The high
performance.
Yeah.
It's like an ongoing aftershave advert of middle class wankness, and he was out there definitely getting into Tav. It was his fault. Look, I'm blaming Tav. It's his fault. Give me the captaincy. The whole club had to interview me to give the guy that surrendered the fucking Scottish Cup final. I don't like Jack Butland, but he was definitely trying to make sure that everybody knew it was Tav's fault. He knows there's a kind of polity, a body within the support that hates James Tavernier, and he was exploiting that to the max. I thought it was out of order. I also at the same time like to see defences having a good old argument about a goal like that. If there was no concern about it, you'd be more worried. But Tav's not getting back there. But it's also the high ball over the top that gets in behind us all the time, just all the time. It's that when the move starts. Obviously, we got the break of the ball. The ball spins back out for the fella to lump it in. Is it Greek or is it Cypriot? I don't know, but we'll be coming up against more names like that on Thursday night. But there was a good ball he swung on, but not to see Andy Halliday arriving was absolutely murdered. It was an embarrassing goal to lose. I think it's also, this is obviously about the manager, about what he's doing. He's trying to coach that out of us. He'll have all sorts of plans as to why that shouldn't happen. But I think it's also part of when you're on a bad run, that's the kind of goal you lose. And I think that's the one thing we can take from the game today. It was all set up to be, look at the state of this. They're going, they're just going to chuck it again, and they have responded to it. But it was an aberration of a goal. I actually don't see how you even need to coach against some of the things that went wrong today. It's just kind of, it's basics, when Hefty doesn't even see the guy.
I think it's one of these that, have you ever played FIFA on the PlayStation with somebody that doesn't know the controls? It was a bit like that the crossers go in and whoever's controlling Jeffty's, he's running the wrong way. Do you know what I mean? And
it goes that way, push it that way.
It just looked calamitous. I mean, I think the only explanation I can have for it is Jeffty thought Butland was coming out to claim the ball. Because he turns his back on it, he's moving into space. It's like he's expecting Butland to collect the ball and roll it out to him and start an attack. And there's just been a breakdown of communication. And as you say, Alec, that's exactly the kind of the goal you lose when the team's in this kind of funk. They're just not speaking to each other. And Sod's Law ends up in the net. It's quite a good finish from Halliday, to be honest. He throws himself at it and it's right in the bottom. But from a defensive perspective, I mean, you're just tearing your hair out with that kind of goal. It's so basic. And again, just one of these things that keeps happening to us, and it's happened too often now to be a coincidence. We've all seen this, but it was a completely bizarre goal to lose, really bizarre. And the crowd at that point got seriously edgy. Right. Certainly around me, you could feel them just bubbling up and go, right, here we can go again. So it was a relief to see the players come out after half time and turn it around.
It's funny, I'm glad you said that, because I thought the way he's running, when I saw it in telly there, it looks like he's following the curvature of the ball, but he thinks the cross is just going to continue. No, that's it, Alan, you're absolutely spot on. He's thought Butland's going to take it and roll it out to him. So he's actually just trying to get another attack going, Hefty. I'm blaming him for that. And also it puts it more on Jack Butland, which suits me.
Yeah, well, what's the story? That was like, I just have to say, that was like some kind of weird anti-Jack Butland Tourette's you had there, because you were talking about saying just kind of jumped in.
I can't stand it. It only comes out when I actually have to talk about it. You know what I mean? I just feel as if the way he comes across, I find utterly painful. When he's saying these post-match interviews, it's that kind of positive mindset, will it to happen? I mean, you should have a positive mindset, but it should be more innate than that. It seems it's very posy, very fake, and to see him out there kind of, I mean, he gets the armband. I think it's all the patter during the summer that we heard, basically the club. He kind of interviewed the club, basically around the directors that were there at the time, to see if he should be staying with us. You know, when I thought, just throw the ball in the back of the net during the Scottish Cup final. There's a lot of mistakes in that game, but I think he's fantastic. When you've been watching Alan McGregor in the down slope, failing to come out and command his box for maybe 18 months, it was great to see Butland just doing the basics well, and he has got some great stops on him as well. But I don't think I would have been quite happy if we get rid of him for was it 10 million was the sum that was being punted, and just got a few other players in there. But no, I don't like to do it. I don't like to be dead against Rangers players, but for some reason that guy just he seems to be cashing in the current situation.
I mean, I've got to be honest here. I think he's like cut you up on the motorway or something like that, and this is just like a vendetta holding. There's got to be more to this, I'm sure.
If he had actually, had the kind of ability to do that, if he'd be able to spot me, like the way he couldn't spot that ball today, then that would have been absolutely fine.
We'll probably cover that more when we get to the January transfer window, but we'll see how that goes. But you're right. I think round me, you go. We're in 1-0 down. Fans made their feelings known. I think there's a few people running about me doing their nutting as well. And I think for me, the big problem was when once Motherwell went ahead, it didn't look like we had a go on us at that point. We kind of looked as if we were shot. And I don't know what you were thinking about Alec at half time, but for me, it was just about, can we actually get back into this game? What were your thoughts?
Yeah, same. Obviously, you want to see what's going to happen. And you're also thinking, is this the moment? Is it going to be... the team comes out and they respond to this, and that's going to get some sort of kind of forward momentum, get a few people back on side with the manager. I think we'll need to win the cup final or something to get everybody back on side with the manager. But is this the kind of bit they're going to look back on? Mark Robbins scoring against Nottingham Forest, to save Alec Ferguson, and Adrian Heath against Oxford United. I'm showing my age here, but this kind of, it's the low. It seems to have gone as low as it possibly can, and this is the bit where they turn that around. I thought it's going to have to be now anyway. They're going to have to do that today, and to hear them getting booed down the tunnel the way they were getting booed, and then I'm pretty sure we get booed back onto the pitch in the second half as well.
We definitely did. Yeah, we did.
I thought that's a bit. I mean, I don't boo the team. I don't. Not even Jack Butland. I don't boo the team at any point, and I've never done in my life. But you pay your money, and it's one of the ways fans can let the players know how they're feeling. But going off the park, it was kind of sad. But when they come back on the park, I thought, Jesus Christ, this is getting vindictive. This isn't helping at all. Which makes it all the better how they responded. But I was worried, as you always are in that kind of situation. But it set it up nicely, and it showed. It turns it into a more significant win than perhaps it is. They come back.
I mean, I think in these sorts of times, with the way the team is at the moment, you can look at it two ways. You can look at it kind of where it's another first half where Rangers don't turn up, right? Because we were poor in that first half. Even though Motherwell didn't really threaten us, we were still quite poor. Yeah. And you can say, well, we didn't turn up once again for the first half and only started playing after the half-time break. Or you can pitch it the more positive way and say, we weren't doing well. The manager got us in at half-time and sorted it out, and we came out much better in the second half. And maybe the manager's due some compliments. Maybe the players are due a bit of credit for sorting it out in the dressing room at half time, because we were markedly better in the second half.
Right.
So it really depends on your outlook and how you want to pitch that. But in a semi-final, going in 1-0 down, as I say, the crowd's in your back and everything else, to then come back out and up your performance in the second half, maybe, just this once, maybe the support should give the players and the manager a wee bit of credit.
I think Jack Butland's obviously put on a Jake Humphreys podcast and got them all, right, guys, positive visualisation. Let's get out there and turn this round. But I think it's just... you go a goal behind the semi-final. It's happened so many times. The last time, a couple of seasons ago, beating Aberdeen 2-1. Extra time under Michael Beale and stuff like that. Just it's about getting to the final. But yeah, it's been a. I think you've also got to look at it. That game we played on Wednesday night, and the abuse the players have taken probably on social media, the reaction to Tav having an interview and stuff like that. It's been bad. It's been brutal. I think it's been OTT as well. I don't think a lot of it's been deserved. But apart from anything else, it'd be a draining game for them on Wednesday night. And you're coming out there and, Motherwell had a serious game at Tannadice. They won 2-1 at Tannadice. But they're on and up, I think, as well. That always helps. They're feeling good about themselves. And you look at what that game we played against Aberdeen did to Aberdeen yesterday. I think it's something we do well. We don't do well. So we've done before this season is showing a surprising amount of fitness into the second half. Because Motherwell could barely get out their half in the second half. The team's starting off sluggish in that half, and you're worried, but no, they powered through it.
I thought that was indicative of the way the team had the bit between their teeth in the second half. Suddenly the players were wanting the ball. Guys like Cherny and things like that. It wasn't really going for it. Not too much was coming off for him, but he was constantly looking for the ball, constantly trying to drive and make things happen. And it showed a good attitude, and he's the fans have been on his back and directly on his back, personally at points this season. But he's one on this that seems to be turning it round, and he got man of the match today, and I think that was deserved as well. And sometimes you just need even just one of the team, to take the bull by the horns and say, right, I'm going to drive it, and that kind of lifts the rest of the team. And I thought that was an important role for him to play today.
Absolutely, and I think that showed with the build up to the Dessers goal. In fact, it's a great wee ball through from Cherny to Barron, and as you say, Barron has got his hand up before Dessers even makes contact with the ball, and it hits the back of the net, and I think we are beginning to see the best of Cherny now. He's been on a good run of goal scoring. He's beginning to get assists, and I think the interview that he gave, I think before the international break, where he was pretty honest about how he was performing, I think also should be a little warning to us fans as well that there are times where players are trying to settle into a new team, a new country, etc., and maybe we do need to cut them a little bit of slack. But with Barron pushing forward a wee bit more, I think I'm really liking the partnership between him and Raskin. I guess, Ali, what's your view on how that's building? Because for me, they should be the two that are the linchpins in the centre of midfield moving forward. Both of them look to complement each other really well, and they seem to understand where each other are going to be on the pitch a bit better than we have done when it's been Barron and Diamandi or Diamandi and Raskin. What are you thinking of those two as a partnership?
I'm really glad to see Raskin coming back. And he missed out the game at Rugby Park because he come back against St Johnstone in a big way, that kind of strange Sunday night kickoff at Ibrox, the league game. And I thought he was man of the match that night. He was everywhere. It was absolutely fantastic because he had a few kind of almost false starts, I think injury-wise and performance-wise, since he's been coming back from a longer layoff. But yeah, he was tremendous that night. And I think he missed it at Rugby Park. I don't know if I can't remember. Maybe it would have been wrist. I never remember. I don't remember hearing anything about it. If it wasn't being wrist, I think it came on later on in the game because of the plastic or something like that. But maybe that didn't suit the injury he was suffering from. But I think he's been pretty great since then. He gets all over the park. He's got that determination. And this whole thing where we don't have a proper six to play in this 4-2-3-1. He's kind of, I don't know, what do you call him, a 7.5 or something. He's got forward. He's got the same kind of box-to-box ability, I think, as the other two. He could be that kind of player, maybe a slightly bit more energy than them, but he's got that kind of, he could take the part and just have a think about it. I think Barron and Diamandi are all energy. They're frenetic. And as plain as they're sitting two, they are absolutely everywhere. And they've got a hell of a lot of work to do with the state of our defence and the state of what's happening up front or not happening. But Raskin just seems to have that ability to take a breath and pick a pass better, which gives a bit more direction, a bit more accuracy going forward. And particularly, you see the goals are always coming from wide. This Rangers team, the goals are always coming from wide. So somebody who can channel the ball from the middle out to the wings in a kind of accurate fashion is really good as well. But I'm just, more than anything else, I'm just glad for him. I'm just glad to see him. He kind of disappeared off the scene for a while after scoring in his first, the first game under this Belgian manager, his compatriot. You thought it's going to work out for Raskin, and then he kind of disappeared quite quickly last season, injury and what have you. And I'm just really glad to see that he's back in there and giving us a bit of presence in that problem midfield area.
I think he looks a hell of a lot leaner as well, than he has done when he's first come into the team. You can see the difference there from a physicality point of view. He's still strong, but he looks a lot leaner. And I think, him and Barron seem to understand. One will sit, one will push on, and they'll flip, and they just cover a lot of ground together and make up for some of the frailties that we've got, as you say, in defence, and maybe with other midfielders who potentially don't work as back as much as they should do.
Aye, totally. I'm my limited football knowledge. I just love to see our midfielders being busy and having a bit of guile about them. Yeah, I mean, I just loved. I like that. I loved when we had Steve Davis and Glenn Kamara and Ryan Jack just in there, just seeming to ping the ball straight back into to the edge of the opposition box. Just a kind of moving wall of energy that was so seamless. It just looked like they weren't actually doing it. So graceful, they weren't actually doing anything. It just looked like they were just holding position. They were just fantastic. But sometimes when there's somebody all hustle and bustle, it's to make up for the kind of lack of tactical knowledge or lack of ability. But I think Raskin's just kind of right in between that slot just now, and he can go on to become one of those proper class acts.
And it gives us a good lead into the 80th minute where we finally take the lead, which is good. But actually, this was a pretty good goal. Bajrami is involved in getting possession back. It kind of deflects off to Raskin. He's straight on it, booms it to Dio. He turns, sprays it wise to Czerny, and he spots Bajrami making that run on the left wing. Now, gets a bit of luck with the finish, absolutely. But I think in the balance of play, we deserve to win the game. I know what I'm going to say feels like we've been here before, Alan. The second 45 we were much, much better. Can we use this as a platform to build on and use it as a reference performance, as the manager said in the presser, going forward?
Well, I mean, the short answer is if the manager wants to keep his job, we have to. It's that simple. We have to. He's saying, look, this is almost like a restart, and say this is what we expect. Move on from this, build from this. Maintain your form. We've got a huge opportunity to do that on Thursday night now, if we can carry that in. I mean, that's going to be a seriously tough game. Anything we can get from that is a really good result. So the players and the manager have this chance now to build on this, but they need to prove it. And they said it quite well. You can talk all you want in interviews and press conferences and whatnot. It's performances on the pitch that you'll be judged by. And we now have this opportunity. We've got a run coming up. European games, home league games where we can hopefully rack a few points up. Then we've got a big game against Spurs. Then we've got a cup final against the other lot. If this team and this squad and this manager are going to prove themselves, they've got the chance to do it. So they need to take that opportunity. We know they're capable of better than we're seeing. We know that. Although this isn't a vintage squad by any stretch, it's still better than we've seen. It's still better than we've been getting. So it's up to them to pull it out the bag and just show us that they can perform to that level consistently. Because consistency, I think, is a real issue for this team. There are points even so far in this season where you can pull out certain moves or certain goals and you think that's really good. There's wee pockets of play that you think are pretty good, but they just can't pull it out consistently. And we're, porous at the back as well. So if we can sort all these issues out, all these minor issues, easy to sort, if we can deal with all that, then it can still be a successful season. But they still have everything to prove. We can't deny that.
Yeah. I don't know if they've got everything to prove. They're doing quite well away from home in Europe. They haven't lost once under Clement away from home in Europe. Pretty serious venues. In fact, he's not had an easy game at all away from home in Europe. Sparta Prague and away to Dynamo Kiev, albeit that was in a neutral venue in Poland, what have you. But I don't think it will make a difference on Thursday. One thing I've learned is that European performances. We've got to the point where the noisy element, the support, and the shit stirrers on, like your Michael Stewarts and Suttons and Boyds and all that kind of stuff. They're hammering home like we're inferior to Celtic domestically, and it really annoys me that we get no credit whatsoever for what we're doing in Europe. And I know we've got the Conference League holders. Olympiacos are doing really well just now, a cracking team. And if we go over there, what a venue as well to play and take a point and have basically, if you can even get a point over there, even if we get beat, as long as we're not slaughtered, you've basically played 4 games and you've won 2 of them. And it's quite remarkable. Quite a remarkable bit of form. And we're coming back from those games, European games, something that Rangers have always struggled. Most teams struggle with European football. When we come back from those games and domestically, we've won every single game. We've played 5 European games and we've won every game after our European games this season. Something even Gio couldn't do in the way to get into the Europa League final, probably cost us the league. I think that they're not getting a lot of credit for that either. And I mean, it's self-evident that obviously they've got to keep winning. That's the only, they just got to win on the park. That's it. That's the only thing that's going to please everybody. But I think sometimes we need to kind of look at how exactly we're judging the team. See a lot of people taking back why Clermont is a dud because they stretched the record back to last season to the point where he started losing. There's no kind of credit for the bounce he got when he came in. It's just new manager bounce that gets written off. And I feel as if it's getting quite particular at times. It's kind of not slanderous, but it's been picked out, some of the stuff that's supposed to be wrong with Clermont's team. And for me this season, it was a rebuild. It was supposed to be a rebuild. And I'm kind of expecting us to do what we've done so far. If you're completely rebuilding the team, this is kind of what it would look like. You'll struggle against Kilmarnock at Rugby Park, like every Rangers team in the last 10 years has. You'll struggle against Aberdeen at Pittodrie, but this Aberdeen team's been freakishly good this season, not our fault. So they win against us, and you'll get beat at Parkhead, but you now need to see that it's kicking in, that the plan, whatever it's supposed to be, is got to come to the fore. And unfortunately, it's not even going to. It'll mean the world to me if we can do something against Olympiacos, but it's not going to change this narrative that's going about just now that Clermont's a dead man walking and doesn't know what he's doing. It's just domestic win after win. We've got to beat Celtic in this cup final for him to relight the fire or whatever you want to say it is.
It's a fair point. It was going to be one of the things we touched on a wee bit, but may as well do it now. Is what success looks like this year. I think. For me, the difficulty is, and this is where I do feel a little bit sorry for Clermont. All of this isn't his making. He's kind of been sold a bit of a pup in the aspect of how much we've probably had to invest and how big a downsizing job he's going to have had to done since he take over. I think the big thing that I would always judge a team on from a success point of view is the bread and butter. You've got to win the league. That's ultimately what gives you the platform to be able to go into Europe and put those performances on, because we have been, over the last 4 or 5 years, 6 years, we've been brilliant in Europe. We've single-handedly brought the coefficient to a point where one team has benefited from it because of our failure to win the league. And that's the big frustration for me. And I'm actually struggling to see what a successful year is going to look like this year, because, as it stands, we're 9 points behind Celtic and Aberdeen at the moment. Fair enough, we're sitting 11th in the Europa League, which is good. We're still fighting in 2 cups, but for me, it's that title race that we need to get back into somehow, some shape, some form. And I just don't know if some of the players have the character to be able to do that from what I've seen. And I don't know what success looks like for you, Alec and Alan, but for me, the bread and butter's got to be the domestic league and the domestic trophies first, and then giving yourself the platform to do well in Europe.
I mean, I think it's probably excuse me, it is probably context dependent this season specifically, because Alex says, we all knew this was a rebuild season, right? They were very clear about that. The squad's going to be completely ripped up in the summer. There's going to be a lot of new faces, etc., etc. And also the manager's come out this week and sort of admitted that his new contract was kind of off the back of some maybe goalposts being moved a bit. So credit to him for sticking in there and saying, right, okay, let's try and do it, and probably being the guy that's going to take the brunt of the fans' fury if and when things go a bit wrong, as they have done, you've got to say, up to this point. But we're in this really difficult spot in that we need success this season, because we all know about the trophy count between us and Celtic. And that cup final, I read a stat say that cup final is the point at which both teams are going to be an equal number of trophies. And suddenly that takes on more significance. And does it matter in the grand scheme of things? Well, no, it doesn't. But we all know fans take these things seriously, take it too seriously. So suddenly you've got this massive game on the horizon. And it's going to be a real acid test for these players and this manager. And, let's look at it positively. If the squad can come through that, if they can bring that trophy home, then that has to be a massive boost for the rest of the season. It has to be. And in this scenario, even if we didn't go on to win the league, you bring a cup, you can hopefully progress in the Europa, as I think we probably should now. Suddenly maybe it's not the most disastrous season that you can imagine, but we need to keep building on it. That's the point. But Clement, he really, really needs a win over Celtic. He really needs one. I don't think any Rangers manager's gone as long as he has without winning one. And he really needs that. And now he's got one coming up, a cup final nonetheless. And then 2-3 weeks after that, he's got them at home in the league. It's crunch time. It's real. Well,
that was the point I was going to make, because the cup final is potentially a bit of a sliding doors moment, assuming we don't go any further behind to that point. But you win the cup final, all of a sudden it gives you so much momentum for going into that game against them at Ibrox. That could flip the mindset a little bit. Smart investment in January, a bit more quality into the team, and then it could be all to play for in the second half of the season. And I guess that brings us to the January window. Alec, from our point of view, is it going to be more about who we can shift out before we bring in? Where do you think we need to strengthen from that point of view? And who do you think are the likely players to go in order to generate some funds for us, if any?
Other than Butland.
Other than Butland.
No, my letter writing campaign is definitely going to come. No, for me, it's about who's going to be in charge, who's going to be picking, who stays and who goes, who's the manager going to be. I would like to know. I'm going to go back to you're just discussing there about the manager, because obviously that's got a fundamental part to play in the January transfer window. But for me, success this season is just seeing the team advance, knowing that the plan, whatever it is, maybe seeing what the plan is. And I think that's overplayed as well. There's a lot of contradictory criticisms. With no idea how this team's been set up, I've no idea what this manager's style is, but we're also slagging them from being wedded to a 4-2-3. Well, I know formation is different from style and all that kind of thing, and teams know how to play against us. Well, that must mean they know what our style is. There's a lot of that kind of stuff going on, but I would just like to see that it's coming together, that he's getting somewhere, because at 16 players out, 11 players in, and 11 players of lesser quality than the 16 who went out originally were when they came in. It definitely is downsizing as well. There's a lot of people kind of throwing that about, but no, it's not a rebuild, it's downsizing. And it's like, yeah, that's to me, that's just been really apparent from the word go, from the talk from Clement during the summer. And the fact, I think that the extra year in his contract, as Alan's saying, we can't help thinking that's because he's found out. He reiterated that the other day, because he's under pressure after the Aberdeen game. He reiterated it on Friday's pre-match presser. That the goalposts, as Alan was saying, got moved, and he's known I am going to be getting it. I'll be taking it in the neck. I've been here for a few minutes. I know exactly what the Rangers support are like and how they will react when we're not performing as strongly as they expect. So if I'm taking that in the chin, I better get a bit of reassurance from yourselves that you're not going to bin me. And also, I can't help thinking that he's quite enjoying it. I think he actually wants to be somewhere for a while and be that rebuilder, Right. I'm sorry, I've got an analogy. Sorry, guys, locked and loaded, and I've got to use it. But I remember all we're hearing just now is papering over the cracks. I win today again, papering over the cracks. Last week against St Mirren, it's papering over the cracks. Well, see, for me, I've written this down. He's actually taking the wallpaper down off the wall, and he's exposing the cracks, and he's going to get in about it, and that's why so it should be bad just now. It should be bad. It's like the Rangers supporters behaving like a bunch of kind of real housewives who are just shouting at the builder. But I'm having my girlfriends coming round for a party. Look at the state of this house. The cracks are all exposed. No pun intended. And he'd say, well, you got to get the work done. You got to get the work done. So you want the house to fall down altogether? We're going to have to do this job at some point in time, and we're doing that job. The living room looks a bit ugly. All our cracks are exposed. But the manager, the manager has got to do it. He's getting his hands dirty, and we're just going to go backwards. So the way we've started the season, managing to beat everybody we should beat, is enough for me just now. That's fine.
Yeah,
I'm scared about Spurs, though. I'm very scared about Spurs and what have you, and I'm wanting to see, obviously, Alan's absolutely spot on about having to beat Celtic. It's got to the point now where that just has to happen. But I'm glad we've got the extra chance a month earlier to play Celtic now. That's apart from just the basics of getting to a cup final. It's great to have Celtic coming up again to get another chance at them. He's got to make that happen. We can't lose this cup final to Celtic. So what success for me ultimately looks like this season is winning the League Cup again and taking it, just let's see a new team emerge. And he's going to need another transfer window to do that. Jack Butland to sell him.
I mean, I've got to say, Alec, this is the first time I've ever been on the internet getting in about housewives and their exposed cracks with people watching me. Do you know what I mean? It's usually
if that's the way you want to read that, Alan, and also if you expect me to believe that, then that's up to you, mate.
But no, that was a really good analogy. But I mean, I think you're right. We can all see what the problems are in this team, and I think Clement is maybe being a wee bit over defensive of the team. Coming out on Wednesday saying that was one of the best performances, I mean, it just makes him sound daft. Now, I don't for a second think he believes that. He knows it wasn't a good performance, but he's trying to defend the team, and it's a real fine balance for a manager to come out and say, look, it's a work in progress. These players aren't quite ready yet. He can't really say that because that would undermine their confidence a bit. And he can't throw them under the bus. We used to laugh at managers across the city that did that. So I certainly don't want the Rangers manager doing that. But he's just got to get it right. And some of his comments, they might just come back and backfire a wee bit. But like I say, look, we decided this was going to be a positive podcast. So we just need to look forward to these games now. The gauntlet has been thrown down for these players. Let's hope they can cover up their cracks and give us something to smile about.
Yeah. Big smiles, big cracky smiles.
Absolutely. And I guess it brings the team moving forward then, because for me, it was actually quite interesting that we saw Casemiro in at centre half, Sterling at right back, and Danilo up front. And to be honest, I think we looked a bit more solid with that change at centre half. I think Casemiro looks a decent player there. Now, this might be an unpopular opinion. I think it's no surprise that I don't think Tav is at the levels that he used to be, and I think there definitely has to be a bit more rotation there. I'm like you, Alec. I think there are fans out there that will just have a go at Tav for Dessers missing a clear 6-yard open goal. But I definitely think that the comments he made about thinking he's playing at a good level this season when it doesn't really pass the eye test so far. And that may well be because he's part of a new team and he's part of a new system. But ultimately, do you think that team that we saw at the end of the game is going to be more of what it looks like moving forward? And Tav starting to take a bit of a backseat? Or do you think he's still going to play a key role in Clement's team moving forward?
I wouldn't be surprised if Tav went in January. I have to say, and for his own sake, sometimes I wish he would, just to stop this, because it's horrible. He didn't have a great game today. He had a car crash on Wednesday, but he is the lightning rod for so many supporters who don't understand football. And I mean that, understand it, less well than I do. I'm not exactly a tactical expert or anything like that, but it's horrendous. The treatment he gets. We've been out there today and we're into our third straight League Cup final. And that hasn't happened since the days of Walter Smith. We're also in our third straight domestic cup final. We hadn't played in the League Cup final and the Scottish Cup final in the same season, so it's the days of Walter as well. So I think Clement gets credit for that, having won both his semi-finals, something no other manager's done since we come back into top flight. It's wee things like that that are, never mind that everybody's showing their cracks. This is the foundations. This is the bottoms. This is just right down the bottom. They have to get that kind of stuff sorted as well. The wee things that you don't get credit for, like finishing second in the top flight as opposed to finishing third. You're never going to get credit for that at Rangers, and you really shouldn't either, because that's what we've got, standards that are way above that. But it's the kind of stuff that has to happen. Somebody has to do it, and he's done that. And you think of all the League Cup semi-final nightmares standing there today, a Sunday at Hampden, October, November. It's just so many bad memories, but they've started to kind of evaporate, just taking us on. And I'm thinking, who's the only player? It's Andy Halliday out there today, scoring for a team at Hampden to take the leads, and then they end up losing the game. And I'm like, I watched you doing that with us, Andy, in 2016. Who's the guy in that team today, a Rangers team, that can tell everybody how to get through? Who's experienced when we're losing all the semi-finals and has been there until we're winning all the semi-finals? And it's James Tavernier. I saw his interview about Black History Month last week, and some of the comments under that are embarrassing, horrific, just out and out racist. There's a lot of the kind of people think attacking woke is, that's not racist, that's just me, mamby-pamby types, blah, blah, blah. But it's weird. Why are we having this? Why are we saying this? As your captain, do you remember the Glenn Kamara stuff? It's just, I forget Tav's black until somebody points it out to me. And sometimes I wonder if that, for a few Rangers fans, is maybe a factor in the level of criticism they aim at him. But I think the manager's just rotating him. He's obviously, did he have an operation in his foot or something like that during the summer?
It was something like that at the start of the season, because I think he was rushed back because of Stelling getting injured, and I think there was a lot of unfair criticism with that, because again, us fans don't take that into consideration sometimes when players have come back that aren't fully fit. I think the other big thing is, Tav has always been a linchpin of the team because of his contributions from a goals and an assist point of view. And because they've dried up this year, I think it just brings the focus of everything that he lacks, and it becomes a bit of an easy kicking boy. But we
have that thing we talk about strikers, and sometimes they're on a bad run, but if they're in there to miss them, that's like a criticism of Dessler. He's not getting in the box enough. He's not getting near the chances. But a striker's he's misfiring, but you've got to miss them to score them. He's in the bit. But sometimes with Tavernier, I think his determination to try and do something defensively ends up he's the last guy standing when the ball goes in the back of the net, and it's like, oh well, he didn't get there, so it must be his fault. But he's a total car crash moments defensively, but they're always far outweighed, not just by his goals and his assists. I'm hearing people talking about the fact, he'll probably win us another game with a free kick, but that will not make up for his defensive. He'll win us another game, but do you know what I mean? He gets a lot of that as well. But I think more than anything else, he sums up the way we've been working since the Mark Warburton days. Not when Mark Warburton brought him in. It's just like overloads. Rangers have always done this, obviously, because we're far bigger than 95% of our opponents in Scotland. Lots of overloads. You've got to get forward, and it's a defensive gamble. So sometimes he's exposed, and I'm talking far too much and far too long, because I wanted the James Tavernier thing. But I think Tav can do what he wants as far as I'm concerned, and I'm just sorry if he doesn't get an absolute hero's send-off. This is the guy who scored 2 goals in the semi-final and won us the final with the winning goal at this competition this time last season. But there's just been a body of fans who just want rid of him. Just absolutely, it's beyond any kind of objectively correct criticism of the guy. It's just kind of almost verging the hatred at times for a lot of people. There's a fixation on him, which I think he's getting to the point that it's holding us back. He's involved in the build-up to the first goal today. He came on last week against St Mirren, and our whole momentum changed. I noticed we changed it defensively as well, getting rid of Proper at the same time. But he carries the whole team forward. He's a kind of attacking linchpin for us out there on that right-hand side. He gets us a foothold in games going forward the way a few other players at this club have over the last 10 years. And I think it's the same as your judgment of this season. It depends what your starting point is. And with James Tavernier, I think he's a legend, etc. People who are just we've got a lot of star fluffers and in our support who just, Brian Laudrup's a legend, blah, blah, blah. And Brian Laudrup was a legendary player, but He was just here at the best possible time, lots of money at the club and what have you, and he's just here for 4 or 5 years. Tavernier's a legend because he's here through the hard times, and it's got us from Championship to getting all our trophies for the first time, getting us to a European final for the first time since 2012, and it was needed at a time like no other in our history. So, in answer to your question, I love Tav.
I mean, I think it's a bit of both. I mean, I think Tav's been an outstanding servant for Rangers, but I think it was, don't quote me on this because I might get it wrong, I think it was Tony Adams, right, in his book, when he said he played on to his late 30s, and Tony Adams said, look, I went through a pre-season and it just wasn't right, and I just knew, and he basically retired, and he said the downfall in his physical fitness was actually really quick. It wasn't a gradual thing over a couple of seasons. It happened really swiftly, and he suddenly realised, look, my body's not up to this. Now, I'm not saying Tav's at that level, but he's 33 now. He has lost a yard of pace, and I think he knows he's lost a yard of pace.
Aye. And his body language is terrible.
Exactly. And we're still trying to ask him to play the same way he did when he came in, he was 23, and he can't do it anymore. And I think he knows that. So it's a case of, if we're going to play that way, that system that exposes your fullbacks one-on-one, but still asks that they get up and down for 90 minutes, we have to look at his place in the team. We have to look, is he capable of doing that anymore? If we're going to change to a 3-5-2 or whatever it may be, I think with extra defensive cover behind him, so he doesn't have to track back quite as much, Tavernier's still got a really important role to play, I think.
He's getting phased out. He's getting phased out really gently as well by the manager, I think.
But it's that kind of, we have to learn lessons, because it was Connor Goldson gave an interview last year where he said, look, Rangers fans won't appreciate him until he's gone. And I think that's right. And ironically enough, we're now only appreciating Goldson once he's gone, because you've seen the guy that's replaced him, he's nowhere near as good. And that's the kind of important lesson for, I think, the fans to learn, to say it's all very well to mump and moan and chase him out of the club, but who have we got to replace him? Casemiro, a kind of youth on loan from Feyenoord reserves. Really, is that the guy who's going to replace your captain and your most important player of the last decade? You have to make sure you've got your succession planning right. And at the moment, we've got nobody in the team that can go through and do what Tav does if we're going to keep playing this way and being so reliant on him. So it's, credit to him, he doesn't hide, but he is off form. And, you do think, is it time for Sterling to get a bit of a run? But I've got no doubt that Tavernier's still going to make plenty of appearances this season, because generally speaking, over the past 9 years since he's been here, when Rangers have been successful, Tavernier's been a huge part of it. A huge part of it.
And he's going to want to play every week, and I think it's up to the manager to then protect him and take him out the starting lineup to give him a rest against maybe the likes of St Johnstone at home or something. That's where a Sterling potentially could come in at right back and put in a decent shift, but give him some time to let that body recover, rest, and when we need him in the big games, he can hopefully get to that level that he's used to and that we've seen. Because I'm like you guys, I think Tav has been a really good player for us. I remember sitting next to somebody at the Dortmund game who refused to celebrate when he scored just because they didn't like Tav, and I think that sums up some of our fan base when it comes to him. It's just like there's going to be people that just don't like him regardless of what he does on the pitch, and I think you're right. When he goes, as we're beginning to see now, you'll see how much of a gap he's going to leave in the team.
Well, we saw how much of a gap he left in the team when he was on the bench for the first half. The team just wasn't as functional. And whether that's his legs or not, but people have got this fixation with pace. Aberdeen put Duke up against them, their fastest player, up against our 33-year-old right back. How do you think that's going to go? Of course he's going to get by him because he's much faster than him. It's up to Rangers to organise the team in such a way that they can deal with that threat. And at the moment, I just don't think we're doing enough of that. If he's to stay in the team, then there has to be some adaptation made.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess, conscious of time, but there is one thing that I do want to cover just before we go, which is the future of the squad. Because I think, quite rightly, we've said this year is a big rebuild. And I think one of the things that we've done with recruitment has been a focus on young, hungry players coming in, coupled with a couple of old heads and the like of Bajrami and Cherny, who's come in on loan. But for me, it's been really, really frustrating that we're not blooding more of our own. We're giving people like Dowell, etc., space on the bench, but is it a case of that none of the guys in the B team are good enough, or is it that we've actually just got to give them game time? And the one example that I'll give is young Bailey Rice. Now, when they were both at the same level at Motherwell before he joined us, Rice was meant to be the better player. I think you've seen one flourish in Lennon Miller because he's been given game time. He's been played in competitive football. But Bailey Rice seems to have dropped off the radar at Rangers and is kind of almost stalled in his career a little bit. How do you think that we can start to look at building that out within the first team squad? And do you think fans would accept, as part of that rebuild, us blooding a big core of that youth team over the next 6 months so that we can use them next year, having given them experience and seeing if they can sink or swim? I'll ask you, Alan, first of all. Sorry,
the honest answer is no, I don't think the fans would put up with it. You see it already with Ross McCausland. It started at Pittodrie and taking off half time and fans just getting on his back and slating him. That's the attitude they have. So coming into the Rangers first team is a really, really difficult thing for a young player to do. You remember Charlie Adam coming in his first season and he was great, he was scoring free kicks, but the fans just never took to him because he didn't look like an athlete. He didn't run enough. And all this kind of nonsense. Bailey Rice, he's been hyped up a lot for a couple of years now. Hasn't really broken through beyond a couple of substitute appearances maybe he's had. He was actually in front of me in the club deck a couple of weeks ago. And he's very tall, he's very skinny. He looks athletic, but he doesn't look built for men's football yet, in my view. You look at Lennon Miller, he's got broad shoulders. Physically he looks ready. I don't think Bailey Rice physically looks ready to my eye. Obviously, I'm not a football manager, but maybe that's why he's not in the team. Because ultimately, if he gets put in that team today and we lose the semi-final, then you'll have tons of players jumping on his back saying, "No, he's not ready. He's not good enough. Shouldn't be in the team." That's just the way the Rangers sport is at the moment, and it's a really difficult environment to come into and make it your own in the Rangers team. That's partly why we've not had many youth products coming through in recent seasons, because we just can't give them the game time they need to develop and the space they need to breathe. And we've also got to remember the B team setup is farcical, absolutely farcical. They don't even have a league to play in. It's all kind of challenge matches and all this kind of stuff. It's inconsistent and it's just bizarre. So you've got to take that into account as well. These guys are playing in the B team at a really dysfunctional level, and it's really difficult to get them match fit and ready to come in and perform if they need to. But all that having been said, I certainly wouldn't be against getting more young players into the team. Again, with McCausland, he was starting on Wednesday. He wasn't even in the squad today. Again, it's just been managed in a strange way. So I think if you're going to commit to the youth players, by all means, let's commit to them and see what they can do. But they better hit the ground running. Otherwise, it'll just get difficult for them, and that's a real shame.
Alec, last word to you, big man, on that one.
I remember meeting Colin Armstrong, also this parish, meeting him outside Firhill after one of the B games in the UEFA Youth League, the B team games, and the players are all standing about, and you're thinking, I'd watched Bailey Rice. Did he get sent off? He'd quite I think he scored in one of the games. He gets sent off in another game, like Ajax and Napoli and Liverpool. But thinking, he looks decent, looks really decent, the boy. And like Alan's saying, he's big. He is big, which always, for me, it's like, that's a kind of sign that he maybe could come in to the team. And he had that game against Livingston in the plastic, but I just remember standing outside waiting for Colin, and all I could hear was these players I just watched playing, quickly showered and that, they had their suits and that on, and one of them's going, "No, Mum, you were supposed to come to the door," berating his mother like a spot, and like, these are children. These boys are children. You're embarrassing me in front of my pals, Mum. I was like, all right, and it's a huge way to go. It's a huge step up. As Alan's saying, you don't get any great patience, and nor should you really at Rangers, because we just need to be winning. We need to be beating Celtic in cup finals and things like that. So, I don't think we're at a point in time. I think it's a kind of social duty to make sure a club at Rangers standing should have a fantastic youth system. We should be getting as many young men as possible playing football and trying to get them trained up and trying to get this Ajax type system that we're always fantasising about but they'll never happen. That we should just make sure we've got a lot of young players in there ready to step in if the chance does offer itself. But I think the actual first team squad is at a stage just now where it's so in need of a proper rebuild, and it's going to take 2 or 3 transfer windows, as the manager keeps telling us, that don't have time to be risking that just now, mate, as far as I'm concerned.
Aye. Okay, well, that brings us to an end tonight. I guess, first of all, just want to say a big thank you to both the guests. Alan, thanks very much for coming on, pal. Nice to chat to you.
Yeah, as always, Rob, I'll see you some point soon.
Absolutely, mate. Alec, great to see you again, pal. And again, really appreciate the input. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Rob/Rab. Fantastic.
So, as well as being live tonight, the show will be available on all podcasting platforms: iTunes, Spotify, Acast, Stitcher, etc. We'll be back on Friday to review the game against Olympiacos, hopefully talking about a great victory away over there, and then previewing the Hearts game, which is a lovely 5:30 kickoff at Ibrox next Sunday. All that's left for me is to say a massive thank you to all those that are watching live on YouTube, and to everybody who watches or listens again. Have a great week, folks, and bye for now.